This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have a trade extravaganza on the podcast. We'll be talking Bradley Beal. We'll be talking Kevin Love. And we'll be talking Kyle Lowry. Should, if, and could these teams possibly trade these players? All on today's podcast. And before we get on to all that, we're going to change up the whole intro. We're not going to push patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We are going to push Most Valuable Podcast Nerd, a new channel on YouTube. Instead of getting sports and nerd on this channel, Most Valuable Podcast, we migrated all the nerd content over to Most Valuable Podcast Nerd. So if you want to get movie reviews like the Lion King 2019 review, check out Rick and Johnny's on Most Valuable Podcast Nerd. If you want to check out Too Old to Game, where Rick and Dave check out the 2K ratings and Madden ratings for the upcoming games, check that out as well on Most Valuable Podcast Nerd. It is a great channel. You should subscribe and support us, because not only are you supporting us, you're also supporting then patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast and the possibility of getting rid of this eyesore, as Ricky says.
And maybe you'll show up on that channel once.
Yeah, we'll sneak
For the
Sean
first
in.
time ever, you'll be on the yellow brand instead of the black brand.
Oh, God, are we brands?
I like that. I like that a lot.
I do, too.
Just for the yellow brand, we just got to make sure we don't make t-shirts too early. But if I do, the yellow brand will be pretty sick. But like I was saying, on the announcement we made on this channel, you got to invite me. I don't know when you guys are recording. You got to invite me. All right? So
MVP Nerd is like the AEW. We're coming after you.
Yikes.
I was thinking more Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, that's
okay,
what I was thinking too. Or NWO versus Wolfpack NWO.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because they traded. That was the first
That was
OG
weird,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, but it was also badass. Anyways, let's
red
jump
and
into basketball talk. We're first going to open up, will the Wizards trade Bradley Beal? Some bum by the name of Adrian Wojnarowski, Report Something Sometime Kid, reported that Wizards general manager Tommy Shepard will offer guard Bradley Beal a 3-year, $111 million maximum contract extension upon the All-Star becoming eligible to sign on Friday, Shepard told ESPN. At the very first moment allowed, we are going to offer Brad the full max extension, Shepard told ESPN. Beal, 26, has until October 21st to sign that extension, which would start with the 2021-2022 season, a decision that Mark Bartelstein indicates that Beal will need time to consider. Now, Shepard says the moment that they can offer him, they will offer him that contract. That was yesterday on Friday. Beal has not signed that extension yet on Saturday, but like Bartelstein said, he'll need time to consider it. So Dave, pretty much lay out what he's considering this $111 million contract, why he would sign it, why he wouldn't sign it.
I think the only upside of this contract right now would be if he fears that he too will catch the plague of injuries. If he's like, man, I'm going to carry this team on my back, and I feel like I'm going to overdo it and hurt myself, because otherwise I would bet on myself if I were Bradley Beal. I'm coming off one of my best seasons ever. I'm coming into my prime. There's no reason to lock myself into a long-term deal that doesn't have the word supermax in front of it. Unless I'm picking the team myself, then I'm going for it. And Bradley Beal does need to do something on his own to actually get there. He does need to have some All-NBA appearance, but he really can do it because he is such a good player, and without John Wall, he can stuff the stat sheet.
Yeah, and obviously we saw that once Wall went down last year, that he could definitely stuff the stat sheets and possibly put himself into the context of a supermax. Now, Ricky Dave brought up the idea of that supermax and not wanting to lock himself in long term without that mantra. Obviously, the difference between that is 3 years, $111 million, and then pretty much a 5-year contract north of $200 million. He's going to get 35% of whatever the Wizards cap up, and then that's only going to go up by 8%. So we're not sure of the numbers yet, but it's well going to be north of $40 million, most likely in the middle to the end of the contract. So looking at that and weighing this, if you were Bradley Beal right now, would you sign this 3-year, $111 million contract, or would you wait out to possibly Dave, or what Dave is saying with the Supermax deal? What would you do if you're Bradley Beal?
If I'm Bradley Beal, you're obviously going to wait until the Supermax. Why lock yourself in for less money when there's a good chance you could be getting more money at the end of the season? The end of the year, though, creates the dilemma, though, for Bradley Beal. It's, do I re-sign with the Wizards and basically stay on with this Wizards team, which There has been stuff where he says, well, he loves being in Washington, loves the team, wants to die in a Wizards uniform. But there's also the other side of it. There's the business aspect of it. If I'm Bradley Beal, I have to be thinking to myself, A, can John Wall and I be healthy enough to be on the court at the same time together? B, when we are on the court together, can we realistically win a finals together? And 3, if the answer is no, can this team make the right moves to build around me? That's the true thing where I think the heart's in the right place for Bradley Beal, loves the city, loves the team, but the business side of it, because John Wall already has the max, is this team going to be able to make the moves needed to win a title?
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, the worth. I think one thing is maybe he's not just all worried about the business side. Maybe he does just love Washington. Maybe he wants to stay for that reason. That could definitely be a reason why he stays. But let's say finals is definitely in his mind of wanting to go there. Dave, you talked about the end of the season, and that's when All-NBA awards come out. He has this year and then 1 year after this. The idea that I'm having is, what if he does look like he's having an All-NBA season? What if it looks like he's on the road to a Supermax, and I'm the Wizards, and I'm asking myself, we just signed John Wall to a Supermax contract, and right now it doesn't seem like it's worth it. It just kicked in this season, and now we're going to be looking at 5 more years of John Wall, and it's only going to go up to all the way to $42 million in his 32-year-old season. And to me, I don't think that's worth it. And now I have to question, is Bradley Beal worth it? Because yes, he does love Washington. He's been here for his whole career. But is he a superstar? And should we start taking these supermaxes more, with more, I don't know, like we shouldn't write them
Caution?
Off. Caution.
I
think that's probably the word. With more caution. Because Ricky brings up a great point. Obviously, Bradley Beal is going to take the most money possible. Why wouldn't he? Why would you? You can take the 27 this year to possibly get 40 plus next year instead of waiting on, I think 37 a year with the 3-year, $111 million contract. So to me, I now have to ask the question, is he worth it if I'm the Wizards to sign this Supermax? Do you think he is worth it to sign the Supermax deal?
I think it's tough to answer that right now because we haven't seen any play of Rui Hachimura yet. We haven't seen any play of Troy Brown Jr. I think the only way that he is worth it is if the supporting cast around him takes a large step forward. Because, like you said, like Ricky said, you're basically anchoring in this team based off of your contract and John Wall's contract, and removing all flexibility of free agent signings. Trades become very difficult because you're just going to be eating luxury tax for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at that point. I want to say he's a good enough player that he deserves it, but at the same time, I don't know if he could. I don't know if the Wizards could honestly give him that money and know that, like, look, we're going to be able to make the moves necessary to compete for a championship with John Wall and Bradley Beal under contract. If they've got it in their mind already that, like, look, we're going to make some finagling happen and we're going to move on from John Wall and we want to go all in on Bradley Beal, and they talk to him and he's good with that, then yes, that's the only situation that I think that I'm okay with.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong, right? Obviously, Bradley Beal means a lot to this team, but the thing that you brought up is if we need to move Wall, you can't. You have to operate like you can't. Because who would you take on that deal?
No.
If you were a GM of any team, if you
one possibility. If I'm Miami and I'm getting Bradley Beal, I'd think about it. I don't know if I'd push the button.
So if you
but
got
the thought would be there.
John Wall and Bradley Beal.
Yes, the thought would at least be there.
And that's fine. But the one thing is that we're now saying that Bradley, you brought it up that Bradley Beal and John Wall might not even want to play together. Yeah. That's why Beal might not want to sign.
Can they win together? Is the true question.
But they've had the two alpha things before, and then Dave even brought up the fact that Beal might say, well, I want to be the guy out there, and that might mean moving John Wall. So I don't know if it's possible to have those two guys on a team to win a championship. It's definitely possible. They've been very amicable, and even probably teammates, good teammates throughout the year. There haven't been actual spurts of Bobby Portis and Nico Mirotic. It hasn't been that kind of stuff.
They didn't
MJ Steker.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is the caution of Supermaxes. And just because he's a good player doesn't mean he is worth that much money because you're afraid to lose him. You sometimes need to hit that reset button. And if you're looking at this team right now, with what they're without John Wall to start this season, and they're going to get him back at some point.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at over-under wins of 28.5. Usually Vegas isn't too wrong. 28.5 is one of the lowest in the whole NBA that they put out. Suns are at 27, Knicks are at 27, and then coming in at third place, and Cavs are at 24, and Hornets are at 24. Coming in at fifth place are our good old Washington Wizards. So they're projecting them to be top 5 pick this year.
Yeah.
I think they're even under that. I don't think they're at 28 this year. So looking at all that, I don't think they're going to get to 28 wins. So right now they can't even win without John Wall. And you're obviously talking about the possible growth that their players that can take, like Troy Brown and Rui Hachimura can take. I'm not high on Rui Hachimura. I'm not high on Troy Brown. I'm not high on any of the young players. And you're going to have to deal with that John Wall contract, and I think it's unmovable. So if I'm looking at all this, I think you need to trade him because in the end, I don't think he's worth the Supermax. And if we're looking at some guy that's going to be coming up eligible for the Supermax, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. That guy is worth the Supermax.
Yeah.
That guy is a superstar. That guy is a top 10 player. That guy is an MVP. That guy has a brand. He is a national superstar.
He's got a nation
He's
behind him.
a worldwide superstar, a Grecian hero. And you look at the guys that have been put under the max contracts. Damian Lillard, he might not be an MVP, but he's damn well always in top 10 voting, in top 5 in some certain cases, and he's been there for years in Portland. James Harden, under the max, Supermax, MVP. Steph, under the Supermax, MVP. Westbrook, under the Supermax, MVP. The only guy that wasn't is John Wall. Do we think that Bradley Beal's an MVP?
No.
Is John Wall? Is John Wall? No. Are they both very good players?
Yeah.
Yes. But they're not worth the Supermax. And that's why I think he will be traded because I don't think he's worth that money. I don't think they're going to pay him that money. And I think he's worth trading.
I agree with you. I think the Wizards sooner rather than later need to bite the bullet and understand that we're in rebuild mode when it comes to Washington. Because I look at their team and most of it is Bonga, Brown, Hachimura, Admiral Schofield, Mo Wagner, Thomas Bryant. All those guys are 22 and below.
Yeah.
And it's like John Wall's 29, but how much is he going to play because he's injured?
Yep.
And then when he does come back, how well is he going to play in that Supermax? You've got Isaiah Thomas, who's 30 plus. You've got Ish Smith, CJ Miles, Jan Mahimi, all 30 plus guys in age to where it's I think the Wizards need to understand, hey, we are not in compete for a championship mode. We are in the rebuild. The only way we help ourselves is by trading Bradley Beal. What do we want to trade him for is the question.
Well, here's the thing, too.
Yeah.
I think you make a great point about bringing the players that are up on the roster because you look at the moves that they did and did not make. Bobby Portis was out there on their team. They didn't extend him an offer. Jabari Parker, same thing. He's still a free agent.
No, Jabari, didn't he sign with the Hawks?
Oh, that's right. He did.
Yeah.
Forgot about that move.
Yep.
But I don't think they extended him an offer. They weren't making moves this offseason. They made some minor moves like Bertans for $7 million, but that's only for a year. I think they also got CJ Miles, but that was only for a year as well. They weren't making big moves outside of the trade with the Lakers, or at least getting Bonga and getting Mo Wagner. Yeah. They weren't making moves this year. They weren't trying to improve their team because I think they understand where they're at in putting themselves in the trade market, or at least putting themselves in rebuild mode. And the next move, the logical move, is to trade Bradley Beal. And some fans might be wondering, they offered him the extension. Why would they offer the extension if they didn't want him on their team? Well, they offered him the extension because, one, it's the polite thing to do. Two, they want to still keep him in good ways with the organization. They don't want him to become upset.
Yeah, you don't want to burn any bridges.
Exactly.
You don't want to force a poisonous relationship.
Well, and they don't want to have him go out and be like, I want to be traded. They don't want him to start making demands, and they don't want him to hurt his trade value. Yeah. Because if they are like, we're now in this mood that we're going to trade him and we're going to go to him with the idea that we're going to trade him, if they make it seem like it's their idea and we're doing it out of love because we want you to be the guy and we want you to win a championship, we want you to be successful, that's going to help them and help his trade value rather than him coming out and not wanting to play and then possibly threaten to sit out or possibly just threaten to not be there and be unhappy and hurt the team.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to balance the whole inner workings of all this. He's going to get traded. In my mind, there's no way he's not traded. I think they will trade him. I think it'd be tough for him to be on this team past the trade deadline. I think they'd be stupid to keep him past that trade deadline. Get him if he's having a great year before he becomes an All-NBA player, and you have to even think about offering him Supermax.
Yep.
Or trade him now, and you don't have to worry about it.
No, I think you hit it spot on as far as the relationship, because if he starts going all Paul George, Anthony Davis, Steve on this and demanding his way out of town, team's going to shortcut his offers. Like, he is one of the most valuable players in the NBA today because he is a two-guard who can play as a primary ball handler. He can score. He can ISO. He can help others. He plays great defense. Like, he's a true two-way player. Like, behind, like, Klay Thompson, everybody's got on a fucking pedestal. Like, Bradley Beal's a better overall player than Klay Thompson is. People may not like that take, but that's my take. Deal with it. It's an opinion.
Well, Klay Thompson fits a role.
Yeah.
Like, he fits his role, and he fits it damn well. That's the
Klay's
thing
also
that makes him well.
much better at the three part. But if we're talking Beal, I mean, Beal's still a phenomenal 3-point shooter. But Beal's also more of an all. I mean, Beal.
Who's better defensively?
Sorry, I don't want to start this conversation, but yeah,
it's tough. We'll have it soon when we come to the positional rankings.
Hey,
that's the thing is, like, I want to say Beal is produced more offensively, but it's also, like Ricky said, he fits a role better.
Yeah. If you give Klay a team,
Klay put up 61 in a game.
And that's something I was going to bring up to help your point of you brought up all the Supermaxes and how many times you said the words MVP. And I know that LeBron's team did last year in Cleveland might have been a little bit more vet heavy than what we saw with the Wizards last year, but I can't help but look at it and go, you played 82 games, almost 37 minutes per game, and your team only won, 32 games? You still missed the playoffs with you as the dominant guy. So it's almost like if I'm the Wizards, it's, hey, I can offer him the contract, still try to trade him within those years, and we might not even make the playoffs anyways with him being our one.
Yeah.
So we'd still have a good enough draft pick. And number two, teams might want to trade for him more then, because then they're like, hey, we don't have to worry about that Supermax. He's already locked down. We don't have to worry about giving him more money and basically crippling us with the Supermax.
It's true. And think about the moves that the Wizards have made in the last year. They moved on from Otto Porter. They moved on from Thomas Satoransky. So two of the guys who had been around that young core growing.
Two guys that are where now?
On the Bulls.
Chicago!
Bulls.
Otto obviously could not produce in that system like they expected him to grow. Done better on the Bulls. Satoransky probably the same. But no, I mean, like, if they're making moves to clear off guys who have been able to produce for them, but I think you guys are smelling the truth, though. Like, it's time for this team to rebuild before. Like, look at the other teams in the league. Charlotte, Kemba is eligible for a larger deal. They didn't even offer him the most available money for, his eligibility, and no duh. Did not decide to take that. Ended up doing a sign-and trade deal, obviously, with the Celtics. As the other half was Terry Rozier. And I think that that's a team where they're in a situation where they are, like, truly the bottom of the barrel as far as rebuilds. Meanwhile, you've got a team like the Thunder where, yes, they traded away an MVP, a Supermax contract, and they got back some old man, but they got back a bunch of draft picks. And I think that's the important part, is that if you're in a situation, I think that Bradley Beal's contract as it stands today, even if he decided to sign this contract extension, is still more valuable than Russell Westbrook's.
Let me throw this question out, because of course, if you're new to the Fast Break, I'm the trade guy.
Yeah.
I love coming up with trades. I'll ask you guys, if you're the Wizards, what two options would you be looking for from teams? Draft picks? Would you want at least like 2 or 3 draft picks, maybe 4 in a deal? Or would you be fine with, let's say, 1 first rounder, probably lottery protected, but hey, I'm getting some not super young, but young enough veterans that still have room to grow in this league. Maybe like guys, maybe guys that are like mid-20s.
Okay.
Like mid-20s, early 20s.
So like 20 to 26 range.
Yeah. Okay. Those kind of veterans that are pre-prime
players
that still have time to grow.
Yeah.
But like they're veterans. They're not like rookies that are like, oh my God, I'm fresh to the league.
Yeah. The thing with that is what would we call it? Teens. We can call those teens because they're not freshmen or sophomores. They're teens. I think one thing that you mentioned, Ricky, before we get into that, because I'll answer that within this question. But first, I just want to say you said something about Beal stats and how it correlated to 32 wins. Beal, once Wall was injured, the pre-35 games, they had 14 wins in 35 games. That's a 40% win percentage. And then the last 47 games, when Wall was out, when Beal took over, they went 18 and 29 or whatever. That's a 38 win percentage. So the win percentage really didn't change with either of those players. Yeah. That team was just bad. And I think Beal did the most. And I don't want to say that as a knock, because I think he is such a great player that I would be going after, as much as I could possibly get. And what I would be looking for in that is possibly a young star and then picks. Okay. So I wouldn't be going after those guys that, like you were saying, 24, 25, 26, that have had probably, 3 to 6 years in the league and some draft picks. I'd be going for those guys that are, fresh, rookies and sophomores and picks in that deal, because I want to be able to replenish these young guys under John Wall. Maybe we could see a thing where, John Wall is the leader, pretty much what we're seeing in Oklahoma City now with CP3, and a better version too. I mean, you're getting a player when healthy, is still young, still very explosive, can still pass the ball in John Wall. I would want him to be able to bring this team along, because he still is a Washington legend, John Wall. I would say that, you need to be able to you need to be able to give him something worth value in those later half of his career, and possibly even try to boost his trade value up, because we don't know what the cap's going to look like in 3 years. Yeah. Maybe teams will be able to take on John Wall if he's producing well. He's doing that around young players. Could help him. But if I was to answer your question, I'd be going for a young star and draft picks. I'd be looking for the youngest possible thing, because I need something to hit really late. I don't need to hit something to hit right now. Yeah,
I mean, like, you hope for that dream scenario like the Pacers ended up with, where you got a player in Victor Oladipo, where was he a good young player? Yes. Was he a victim of his circumstances as far as, what had capped his ceiling at the time? Yes. I mean, undoubtedly, he was good on Orlando, but he couldn't really play his style. He was good as a secondary ball handler for OKC, but then we watched him thrive when he got to hold the reins for the Pacers. So I think that they would look for someone who they think, that kid's got it. We just need to unleash him. He's got that second gear he can flip into.
Look at D'Angelo Russell. That's another great
D'Angelo Russell.
I mean, he became an all-star on that Nets team. Obviously, they didn't get the fruitful yield of the Indiana Pacers keeping Victor Oladipo, but I think they have got a pretty good consolation prize of having to let D'Angelo Russell walk and getting KD and Kyrie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that if I'm looking for something, I think Dave's right. You need to be looking for guys that are victims of their situation. And the one thing, too, is Victor played 4 years before he went to Indiana and became this all-star.
Yeah.
And in those years, 16 points per game, 34% from three, 80% from the line, 4.5 boards, 4 boards, 1.5 steal, a really good defensive player who wasn't able to unlock that offensive player level. And he went to the right system. He was going to a place that was defensive focused. They were going to slow the game down more. He was going to be able to attack more, and he also just worked on his game more and became a better shooter. I think the one person that would stick out in my mind of being that kind of dude that's a victim of his own situation would be Devin Booker. But everyone is so fucking high on Devin Booker that it's not possible.
Yeah.
When you said victim of situation, I was like, Devin Booker. But then you look at his numbers, and his numbers are ridiculous.
Oh, they're incredible.
But Devin Booker hasn't been able to help a winning team yet. So that's the one thing where I was like, I just need to share that thought of people overrate the fuck out of Devin Booker. He's a fantastic player, but you can't be like, oh, he's a victim of a situation, because everybody knows who Devin Booker is, and everybody thinks he has that next level where people didn't think Vic had that level. So you need to be able to find someone that is kind of in that weird situation of a high draft pick, or at least a first-round draft pick that has that potential. We always knew that potential was there, but he's gone to multiple places. Like Victor Oladipo was a very interesting spot, but you have some trades, I think, right?
I do. So I've got.
Do any mention a diet Victor Oladipo in there?
One is for Vic's team.
Oh.
Vic's team's in there. I've got one that has more of the. So trade one, you're going to get two 23-year-olds, a 26, a 27, and then a pick.
Okay.
Trade two, you're going to get a 29-year-old, a 26, 27-year-old? Let me see. 23-year-old, I'm sorry. So a 29, a 23, and an 18-year-old.
Who's that old guy that you were like, oh, let's add 3 years?
You'll see. The guy I missed is the second guy. You'll see who it is. And then 3 picks. And then the other one is the Miami Heat. We'll get to them last. I'll just spoil that. But the first one is Pacers and Wizards. Grade this trade. Beal goes to the Pacers. The Wizards get Sabonis and Aaron Holiday, two 23-year-olds.
Okay.
TJ Warren, who's 26, I think. And then Doug McDermott, who's 27. And they would get a lottery-protected 2022 pick, first rounder from the Pacers.
TJ Warren will be 26 by the start of the season.
Okay.
September 5th birthday.
And this trade could not be done until September 4th because of TJ Warren. So you got to wait until
Hilarious.
September 4th.
So basically the day before his birthday,
Yeah.
you have to trade. Okay.
That's when the restriction lifts.
Yeah.
That sucks. And at least he might not have moved to Indianapolis yet. That would suck if he moved there. Like he moves right before and be like, can't wait to spend my birthday in the desolate Indianapolis metropolitan. You
All
ever
4
go
blocks of it.
Yeah, you ever go to Indianapolis?
I did for Gen
We
Con.
drove through it.
Indianapolis, like a beautiful town.
It really is.
No one is there. I was there at noon. Not a soul was in there.
Yeah.
And
Did
maybe
you
that's
also say that?
Yeah. It's great though. Like
Oh, it's a great place.
cool architecture.
There's no traffic.
Interesting city. Like they've got their own like little pockets for like different niches. Like I like it.
It's a nice city.
Yep.
Just no one's there.
Yeah. As far as this trade goes though, I do like it.
No one's there.
No one's no.
No one's there in that trade.
Sabonis and Holiday are definitely the two spicy pieces of this deal. Sabonis notably not able to play at the same time as Turner to a great result.
Yeah.
They got some overlapping game there. I think he's awesome though. Like he's one of the best up and coming modern bigs. Great ball handler. Like he's not as good as his daddy, but he's very good. He's very good.
Got it from my dad.
Aaron Holiday, we haven't seen much out of him yet, and that's the thing. Like they were so deep at point guard last year that we didn't get to see much. So like, if you were maybe the Wizards were high on him last year, and like, look, we know what we ended up with in John Wall. So like, we need somebody who can come in and play, someone who can come and be our next growing piece. I think that's interesting. My question revolves around only one first. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to get it done.
Even the lotto first, too, that's kind of, I would say you need to add more to that because I think Bradley Beal is a fantastic player. Also, they weren't sleeping on Aaron Holiday. They had the choice to draft him. He went 23rd. They took Troy Brown. Yikes. At 15.
Yeah, they went for the young kid.
And Holiday, too, he only played 12 minutes a game, so it wasn't anything he did get that time, like you were saying, because they were so deep at point guard. But to your point of the picks, lotto protected, I think you just gotta unprotect that shit for Washington, because it's probably gonna be unprotected, at some point.
Yeah.
But unprotect it now because you're expecting Victor Oladipo, who's young, to play well for you in a long time. Malcolm Brogdon a long time.
That
young well for
three-headed
you too.
monster.
And Bradley Beal for a long time too. And that's the cool thing too is that's like the Rockets 3-guard situation, but much better. Because you don't have that James Harden, but you have a very great player in Victor Oladipo when healthy. You have a very great player in Bradley Beal who's better than Eric Gordon, and you have a very good player in Malcolm Brogdon who might be better than an often injured Chris Paul.
At that point, do you just let Brogdon run the 2? Like
I
run
mean-
the second unit because you have
No, you're on 1, 2, 3.
Brogdon's 1, probably Beal
Vic would
2,
be 2
and then
and-
no, Beal 2,
Okay.
and then Depot 3.
Okay.
How the fuck are you scoring on that team 1?
With Miles Turner at the 5?
Jesus.
Yeah, that's dirty. I like what that would do for the Pacers. I just don't think that they're giving the Wizards enough value there. So,
But
it
something
might
could be worked out
more
there.
picks. But yeah, I like the core pieces
Yeah.
of Sabonis and Holiday, seeing what they could do to move forward.
Yeah, I just wonder how they could build then
Because
around
they're both expandable.
that team. Because how would they fill out that depth? Because you do have Jeremy Lamb, who they just signed.
Yeah.
But really, outside of that, then you're looking at everyone's boy, T.J. McConnell.
Yeah.
But he's a backup Jesus.
I mean,
a
if-
backup
He's a
point
goat.
guard.
He's
The
the
goat.
GOAT.
Then you have your backup big and my favorite player, Goga Batazde. Then you have a very iffy player in TJ Leaf, has not been able to hit his peak. Edmund Sumner, former guy from Xavier, got injured, fell to the second round. He definitely has a lot of potential. Then you're looking at the tank commander in Jakar Sampson.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's pretty much all they got on their team. So they definitely need to help out. They have Brian Bowen on a two-way contract too, the guy from Louisville.
Nice.
Or Louisville, kind of.
Yeah, so not quite Louisville.
But they would need to be able to fill out that team because something I do like about their team is their depth. I do like Doug McDermott as a three-ball shooter. I love TJ Warren as a scorer. He's phenomenal. Added that three-ball. Holiday, really nice young piece. And then Sabonis, too. I mean, you can't find a better 4 or better bench big in the NBA right now, or there probably is. I'm probably forgetting of like some stacked team like is Boogie now a bench a back? Like he could be the best big, but at least young bench big, he's easily the best one. So I would say that for Indianapolis, you're getting a phenomenal player, and I think it's worth it.
Think they need to give up more picks.
I think they need to give up more picks, but at least the only downside that I could see for Indianapolis was I think you're really at least thinning out your bench, and I don't know how that would work out. But yes, adding more picks, and I think that deal is definitely viable. What's the other one?
The second one. This is a team we talked about last week. They're not going to trade Blake Griffin away. They're going to try to get Blake some help. So the Pistons get Bradley Beal. They give up 29-year-old Reggie Jackson. They give up 23-year-old Luke Kennard.
You thought he was 26?
Yeah, well, he looks 26 in this picture.
No, I don't blame you on that one.
Then they give up 18-year-old Sekou Demboya that they just drafted.
Yep.
And then their 2020 first rounder, their 2022 first rounder, and their 2024 first round picks. Put whatever protections you think should be on them. 3 firsts, and then Jackson, Kennard, and Sekou.
Where were you coming? It's just take me through when you were putting the picks together. Why did you go short in Indiana? Then I think you went heavy on Detroit.
So both of these trades are the Pacer one was from Bleacher Report article. I'll put it down below in the comment section. And then there was a fan site article, Wiz It All, which is the Wizards site, proposed this Wizard trade.
Gotcha.
I can see why the Wizards proposed this trade.
And I just wanted to see in the NBA trade machine if they would work out. This one would be able to after August 3rd because of Sekou. You got to wait 30 days after drafting Sekou.
Gotcha.
So August 3rd on, they can make this trade.
We'll talk about when they would trade him, whether it be trade deadline or before the season. Again, the deal makes sense. This would probably be my favorite over the Indianapolis one, at least for Washington sense, because you get Kennard, who is very young and can play right now next to John Wall, and he could grow into something that, he might not be something great ever, but he can be a very good starter.
The hope is JJ Redick.
Yeah, and with Sekou, I mean, you're pulling at heartstrings there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of my favorite players from that
Reggie
draft recently.
And Reggie Jackson, you get him off the books after this year.
Exactly.
He's done.
And you also pair up Ish Smith and Reggie Jackson again back
Ish
together.
just quit. He's like, I'm done with this.
I can't play, man.
Not this again.
But Sekou, I mean, he's one of my favorite players. So, I mean, and you talk about young stars, and, he might not be in that same mold of a Victor Oladipo like we're talking about where people are giving up on him. But he was a guy that fell, and I think fell too much in this draft. And you're giving him the ability to really just wait it out. And you have 2 projects, too, in Sekou Demboya and Rui Hachimura. And maybe Sekou could teach Rui how to shoot, and Rui could teach Sekou how to get bigger. So I think that would be a great deal, at least from Washington.
Off one of those picks, and it feels about fair. Like,
that's what I was saying.
Get rid of that last pick, that 2024 or whichever one.
If I'm Washington, I'm like, throw in another pick. Why not?
Well, yeah, Washington's proposed this one. I think fair if you give 2 first-round picks, Kennard, Sekou, who were both first round, mid-first round.
Yeah.
And Reggie Jackson's contract to fill that void. I like that deal.
I like that deal, too.
For both teams.
Yeah.
And then the last one is just the kind of reported Miami Heat trade. It's just a question of if you're Miami, do you pull the trigger? Where a lot of them are saying in order for Miami to get it done, they might have to take on John Wall also.
How?
So in this one, Bradley Beal and John Wall would be coming over to the Miami Heat, and the Wizards would get Johnson, who's 2-year, $15.3 million.
James Johnson, the strongest man in the league.
Dion Waiters County, Justin Winslow, Justice Winslow, Kelly Olynyk, and then a first rounder in 2025 because Miami has traded certain picks to where it's like they can't trade next year's. They can't trade the 2022 because they can't trade back to back. So the first eligible one that they could give up would be 2025.
This is my least favorite one because not only do you not get enough picks in my mind at 2025, that's rough for me. Only that 2025 pick that doesn't make it's not enough for me to get up there. Now being Miami's 2025 pick, I do like that because with their contract situation, Wall coming off by then, Beal coming off by then, and Butler coming off by then. You're not sure if those guys are going to be there, and if they are, they're going to be really old at that point. So that might be a really bad team where you get a good pick at 2025. But outside of that, like you do get Winslow, Olynyk's fine, but Johnson and Waiters are kind of throwaway pieces to match up that contract salary, and also with Olynyk, I mean that's not enough. So you're really looking at really just Winslow in the 2025. And that doesn't move the needle enough for me to pass up a guy like Sekou, who is more controlled lengthwise under contract for a rookie deal for, 5 years? Kennard, who's got at least 3 years left on his contract, and then Reggie Jackson getting that relief next year, and then 2 picks as well. I like that Detroit package more, and I like the Indy package more too.
I think
you do get a lot of help though with the Wall thing, which is true.
That's the big appetizer. This screams front office of the Miami Heat. This screams we refuse to go down without a fight because we don't tank. Pat Riley don't tank. Pat Riley goes in and just rubs that luxury tax and says, "Hey buddy, how's it going?" That's his best friend. If there's one player who I think has that Victor Oladipo quality, would be Justice Winslow. He's a player who we saw him explode at the end of last season, shooting percentage-wise, thriving in a role of a point forward. And he's a guy who, because they had so many good offensive weapons around him, in Josh Richardson and Deion Waiters, obviously was not healthy, but they had other guys running that offense really, or taking the scoring load. I think that if you give him a starring role on an emptied out team like Washington, it's basically just a better Troy Brown Jr. by a lot. He'd put up ridiculous numbers. I think he would put up 18, 7, and 6 or something. I really do think that he could be a do-it-all point forward, and he could be the guy who explodes and takes that next big step forward. I understand that you're not getting as much value back with supporting cast piece. Kelly Olynyk is not sexy. It's just James Johnson.
He's good.
Yeah. James Johnson, Kelly O are not great guys as far as a rebuilding team, but they are good players. They're good locker room pieces. James Johnson is one of the best locker room guys. He's a perfect veteran.
Former Bull.
And that pick is so far down the line, who knows what it'll be. So it's spicy, but I'm still leaning that Detroit one. I would love to see John Wall, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, though. That would just be fucking hilarious.
I don't know why the Heat would do it, to be honest with you. You get Beal, which is great, but it's bad desperation.
Have you seen the John Wall workout
stupidity.
videos? He's not fat homeless John Wall anymore.
I've not seen the John Wall
workout videos. He's doing the hockey ropes.
He actually looks ripped.
He's getting those ripped arms.
No, pretty ripped.
Do you remember the Olympic team John Wall?
Yeah, it's my picture somewhere. It was my background for a little bit.
The dude was huge. It was hilarious.
Yeah, but I think it was a bad picture because he wasn't that fat when it came down to the actual season.
Yeah,
I think it was just a shitty picture.
Probably. But yeah.
I think that with this, though, all of it's just going to come down to the trade deadline. Because do you feel any of these are going to happen preseason?
No.
I don't think it'll happen preseason, but I think the Detroit one's interesting because it adds another legit star next to Blake. And they really seem to be, the feedback we got from our Blake Griffin video that we knew was not going to happen seemed real hard in on they should go for it for Blake. And even we talked about it, Blake's got one more year. Don't even worry about this year. See where it goes. See how he comes back from his injury and run it back because he played fantastic last year. If you give him any help, Reggie was not any help.
Yeah. Well, with Detroit then, because they would be getting rid of Jackson, which is a positive. Who would their point guard be?
Detroit's point guard would be
it's not
Bruce Brown, clearly.
Oh, sick.
He played decent for him last year, and he had a great summer league.
Just make Blake the point guard. Well, Beal, I guess.
No, Derrick Rose.
Oh, it's right.
The Lord and Savior Derrick Rose.
Yikes.
Or Tim Frazier.
Hey, he's a rating of 80 in 2K this year.
I'm be honest.
He also hits threes like it ain't no thing.
I don't know if Tim's a solid basketball player, but I like him as a person. And I don't know anything about if he's a potential criminal at all. But I know that Tim Frazier, maybe it's the name. He just seems like a nice guy. I think he's got a nice smile too, from what I remember about Tim Frazier. I don't remember though anything about something that he could have done wrong. So if he did something wrong, I take back that. I was listening to the radio recently, and some person called Addison Russell a good guy, and that was a oof. But he knew what Addison Russell was what's it called? Accused of.
Oh, accused of, yeah.
Yeah, accused of. I don't know if Tim Brown's a criminal.
Tim Frazier.
Tim Brown.
Shout
out
former Penn State Nittany Lion right there, Tim Frazier.
Oh. I thought you were saying Tim Brown. I was like, no, that guy's a Golden Domer.
I remember watching Tim Frazier for the Nittany Lions on Big Ten Network.
Nice.
Now I got to look up Tim Frazier's criminal history. He might not even be a criminal. This might be insulting to the Tim Frazier fans.
While he does that, he mentioned Addison Russell. Did you guys hear the funny news about him?
No.
So he got sent down to the minor leagues, missed the Iowa exit, and ended up in Omaha.
No.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
I saw it from a legit source, not the Onion.
Ricky, it was an Onion-like source.
Oh my god.
Because the whole story was that he was not getting the signs with the Cubs, so then they sent him down to the Iowa Cubs.
Yeah.
So they made the joke that he misread the signs to go to Iowa.
I see
and he
what
went
they did there.
to he went to the Double-A team.
I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah, it was a good satirical piece, but it was
didn't like
definitely a
Addison Russell,
satirical
so I
piece.
believed it.
We're trying to be more factual here, and throwing out that crap is not going to be factual. Also, Tim Frazier graduated in May 2013 with a 3.1 grade point average in supply chain and information systems at Smeal College of Business. Frazier added a second bachelor's in communications arts and sciences the following year. He later served as the basketball team representative to the Penn State Student Athletic Advisory Board and was a member of the secret society at Pari Nois while at Penn State, and is not a convicted criminal. And I do like Tim Frazier.
See,
I can make that a solid
new
take.
Every time you watch our podcast, you can't walk away from this show without learning something.
Solid takes. Tim Frazier's a good guy. I could back that one up. Anyways,
so we're all in on this mid-season deal to Detroit.
yes, Ricky, you're a mid-season deal guy?
I'm either Indiana or Detroit. If it was me, I would go with the Detroit trade. Give me young Sekou and picks. But at the same time, if Washington feels like, hey, John Wall's going to come back and we're going to build around John Wall, Sabonis, Holiday, Warren, like those guys I feel like could be good pieces if John Wall's coming back healthy and is going to lead this team. Otherwise, give me draft picks. I'm going to go young and rebuild this team through the draft.
I love doing this, although we already answered the question. This is how we end every podcast. Will the Washington Wizards trade Bradley Beal?
Yes, at the trade deadline.
Thank you for answering it. Dave was not looking at
I
me.
gave
I
a
was directing it to
suspenseful
him.
look over to the camera. I was like,
Yes,
oh?
they will.
Should they?
It was a weird pause.
Yes, they should.
All right, and I think
It's
yes.
an oppressive
No.
yes, though.
Would they?
Yeah, will they?
Will
Not
they?
should
Would they? Should they? The answer is yes to all the above.
All right, yes, and I think it's a will as well. And I out of these deals, I think Detroit is definitely one, and one I have to throw out there, like I do all the time, is the Denver Nuggets. I think the Denver Nuggets would actually be a legit good landing spot for them. I think they need another star. Bradley Beal is that. Bradley Beal is a very great player. I don't think he's a superstar. He's not worth a super max, but he's a very good player, and I think he could be a great number 2 on a championship level team. And if they got Bradley Beal, I think that they would be a championship contender and not just one of those teams that would be competing with the Lakers and Clippers. But
they're giving up Malik Beasley, Will Barton, Michael Porter
Gary
Jr.,
Harris.
and Bol.
Exactly, there it is. Gary Harris has to be in there too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Michael Porter Jr. is that guy. That would be that key piece.
That's a it factor.
He's that superstar potential guy that I think would be huge. And then if you want to reunite Bobo and Manupal, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
You'll bring him back to
Washington thing.
You getting us demonetized over there?
No, I'm not getting him demonetized. What do you think I'm putting him up there? What do you think I'm putting porn on there?
I look at
Jesus.
his face after looking at it.
I'm gonna sign off by saying, let us know if you think that the Wizards will trade Bradley Beal, and if they do, will Tim Frazier become it's a picture of Tim Frazier. Will Tim Frazier become the starting point guard of the Detroit Pistons if they trade him to the Detroit Pistons? So everybody say goodbye to Tim Frazier. Bye Tim.
Bye, Tim.
Let us know if you think that Bradley Beal will be traded by the Washington Wizards.